had nothing to do with Renner's reluctant fascination with the security guard, or the way a flame lit under his blood every time the man was close by. Nothing whatsoever. He had a strict set of rules when it came to other men, and Milo violated them all by being his employee, not to mention being too young, and too straight. Like chest bumps and beer koozies straight. In other words, Renner was doing his best to ignore how Milo's security shirt had come unbuttoned halfway to his belt, and sweat was beginning to catch the bright factory lights. Right. Renner swallowed the remaining inch of whiskey and turned away from the window. He needed to get some sleep. He'd been working on a new contract pitch for 3 days, and his common sense was beginning to blur. The account he was trying to land didn't want to use their facilities anyway. Despite Bastion Enterprises' pristine track record, the rejections continued. Why was he trying so hard? Because that's what Renner did. He worked until he collapsed. Late hours, red-eye flights, exhaustion, coffee, whiskey, repeat. After being doubted by countless associates on his rise to the top, a fire burned in his gut, daring him to prove himself. It never, ever went away. Yes, work was his cruelest vice, and it kept him moving, never settling. He certainly didn't make habits of outstaying his welcome in one town, a place where he didn't warrant so much as a wave when walking down the street. It was absurd that Milo, an employee who had about as much respect for Renner as a delinquent child for a school principal, should make him feel welcome. For the love of God, he'd greeted Renner with a middle finger this morning, and yet somehow Renner had been looking forward to it. At least it was an acknowledgement. Time to go home, seriously. Back to the city, back to sanity, back to dating men who were available to him. Why was there so little appeal to the latter? With an irritated curse, Renner went to his desk and began shoving files into his leather briefcase. If he went out the back door, he wouldn't have to ruin everyone's fun downstairs. His Mercedes was parked a few blocks over, despite Milo's insistence that he park in the frickin' lot, so he would avoid that argument as well. That was not a disappointed tug in his stomach. He just skipped dinner. Milo watched the light go out in Renner's office and knew the stubborn prick was going to try to sneak out without him. The guy really thought he was untouchable, didn't he? But in a town full of people who disliked him, especially after firing their beloved mechanic Duke, and the explosion that followed, Renner didn't get to waltz around in the dark in his $5,000 suit. Maybe Hook was slightly safer than Milo's old Boston neighborhood, but at age 26, caution still ran in his blood. He'd been hired to keep the factory safe, and that duty extended to Renner, the factory's owner, whether the dude liked it or not. The Army had taught Milo to take his responsibilities seriously, and after a disorganized, all-around backward youth, he'd learned there was satisfaction in being thorough, to be proud of a job. Responsibility, yeah, that was so why he was so protective over Renner. Milo snorted to himself and gave a sweeping bow to the woman in front of him. She was sweet, this lady. Kind of reminded him of the librarian who'd kept a 40-ounce in her desk back in middle school. Quick with a joke and loved anyone who noticed she still had a little fire in her. All right, pretty lady, I have to take off. Milo took her hand, giving her one final spin. You go easy on the boys at the third shift tonight. Just remember who got you warmed up. She doubled over and laughed along with her friends, who'd stayed behind to watch. Why don't you come out and give me a spin yourself? You know how it is. He winked at them as he rebuttoned his shirt. Hot date. Milo left them laughing on the factory floor as he jogged toward the back exit, wondering how far Renner had gotten without him. His smile dimmed. Bet he hadn't even parked that Mercedes in the gated lot, like he was supposed to. Maybe the guy liked being reminded. Good. That's exactly what was going to happen. Crisp fall coolness slithered inside Milo's shirt when he slammed out of the factory, the metal door booming shut behind him. He took a right and hit the sidewalk, knowing Renner liked to park near the coffee shop so he could feed his caffeine addiction immediately after stepping out of his shiny black ride in the mornings. Yeah, he'd been observing.